Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Solar Sidekicks. My name is Pat Southwell. I'm a licensed electrical inspector, and I'll be your host. This is now episode 4, and things are going along quite well. So thanks to everyone for passing on some feedback, liking us on the socials. So far, it's been really, really good. First of all, we'll acknowledge the traditional landowners of where we're broadcasting this from today, the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay my respects to all elders, past, present, and emerging. So we are here at Roy Daw Reserve in Carrum, broadcasting on community radio station Radio Carrum. I want to thank Radio Carrum for all their support in allowing this broadcast to be put together. So thank you very much to everyone there. First of all, before we introduce our guest for the day, some updates from last week's show. So we had 2 great guests come in, Christine and Emma. I want to thank them again for their insights and what they brought to the show. I had a lot of good feedback, so thank you. And I also wanted to mention, I had a little, I suppose, a mini whinge about SAA. I just wanted to let everyone know about the CPD accreditation program applications, or the accredited courses for CPD. They have now, I got an email this week saying that they have opened. So that's really good news for the industry, and hopefully they're hitting their strides. And yeah, we're in your corner, SAA. So hopefully it's onwards and upwards even more. So let's get into the guest for today's program. Sitting here in the studio with me, we have Vaughan Bullock. So I want to say hi to you here, Vaughan. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Pat.
No worries. You've made the trek down. A little bit of a drive for you, although I don't think you came from your house today, did you? You were not too far away.
No.
Came from somewhere else. Yeah, a little bit of a drive up the highway. So I want to introduce you, Vaughan. You're a licensed electrical inspector, same as me. So this is going to be interesting, everyone. We've got 2 LEIs in a room talking about technical stuff. So this could bore the absolute crap out of some people, and other people are going to find it quite insightful, I think. So you, Vaughan, you've been a licensed electrical inspector. How long have you been doing that for?
Yeah, so I gained the inspector's license back in October last year.
Yeah, 2023.
2023.
So you're relatively new LEI.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, well, we're going to get into your journey about how you became an LEI. We're going to go through a fair bit of that. You've got a lot to offer on the technical side of things. You're in and amongst the standards every day, the regulations. Yeah, we kind of speak the same language with a lot of stuff. So I want to apologise to any people who maybe don't exactly understand some of the lingo we use sometimes. We understand what we're talking about, and a lot of other people in the industry will, but not everyone will. So, yeah, we'll try our best to speak in the language everyone understands. So my first question for you, Vaughan, to most of the people we have on the show, are you a solar superhero or are you a solar sidekick? Where do you fit in, mate?
Yeah, well, I've been a part of the industry since 2007, so it's been a long time. I'd see myself more as a solar sidekick, to be honest.
Yep.
I sort of fly under the radar and just focus on what we can do and what we can do best, and offering my experience to and knowledge to help other people. Yeah,
okay, all right. So not really flying the cape out in the front. You're sort of in the background a little bit with a lot of stuff, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm not great on these. On putting my face up on stage or doing podcasts. This is a very first for me.
I mean, I don't think anyone's really that good at it, to be honest. I think it's good. I love that you come in and you're having a go, because I think you've got a lot to offer the industry. Got a lot of technical knowledge. I've known you for a number of years, and yeah, we always have good chats about technical stuff and things in the industry. I suppose if we go back to, well, let's talk about when we first met. So I think I met you in 2013. I might have been 2012 actually. It might have been the end of 2012.
Yeah, 2012.
Yeah, at TVS.
Yep.
Yeah, we can say those dirty words, can't we? That's all right.
Now, yes.
Yeah, we can. It was all right. Oh, look, I sort of look back on that time, and I learned so much at TVS. Like, a lot of people think it is a bit of a dirty word, bit of a dirty company. You were contracting for them, so you did those installs. What did you learn? What do you think? How does that sit as part of your journey in the solar industry at TVS? How do you look back on that time?
Look, it was Yeah, certainly when I reflect back on things, it was actually quite a good time. We did contracting, basically the residential side of things, and then moved into their warranties service department.
Yeah.
Started doing the contracting there. One thing I really respect TVS for is they did actually honour warranties and did have a full department set up.
Yeah, they probably needed it, didn't they? More than anyone, like there was full-time people employed there just taking on those warranties, processing them, speaking to manufacturers, organising contractors like yourself to do it all.
Yep.
Yeah, you reckon they did that pretty well? Like,
I think they started off, it was pretty rough. And then we helped develop a system that sort of made their job a bit easier in the admin side of things, like you mentioned. A lot of inexperienced people were in the warranties department.
You mean inexperienced as far as their technical knowledge in the solar industry?
Yeah, technical knowledge.
So probably could work their way around a computer or a phone or all that sort of stuff.
Absolutely, and the customer service was quite good. But yeah, they lacked in the technical knowledge part.
Yep.
And then I actually joined them. Got offered a position in 2013 as
that's right. I remember that.
The national technical manager.
I'd almost forgotten about that.
Yeah,
to be honest, because we were sort of crossing paths all the time, and you came on wages for a while.
I came on wages, yeah.
That's right. That's actually joining the dark side.
It was. But to be honest with you, it was. I saw a light to it all. I actually wanted to really help, and I felt really sorry for customers and who were left, obviously with systems that weren't working, whether it was from a manufacturing issue, installer issue, or a product issue. So I really wanted to come on board and help and help some like-minded technical people out there that were contractors who were trying to help interstate.
Yeah.
But obviously...
that's right. You had a fair bit to do with the people in the state. Like TVS was a big Victorian operation. But if you look at... and it was, probably twice as big or even 3 times as big as any other state that in Victoria. But there's a huge operation in Queensland as well.
Yeah, that's right.
It was massive. There was
WA.
WA was big,
South
yeah.
Australia,
They were all big. I think it was probably New South Wales where they only were reasonably small.
Yes.
Even Tassie.
Yeah, that's right.
It was huge. Tassie was huge. That's right. Yeah, so you had a fair bit of interaction with contractors from other states, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And through that, I've met some great people, and we've carried on some relationships through there, even to today. So, when I reflect back, I'm actually quite thankful for my time at TVS. And then when I left on wages, it sort of just didn't work out for me personally, more than anything. I went back to subcontracting and carrying on doing their subcontracting work and then moved into commercial installations.
Yeah, right, okay.
So, yeah.
Well, that's good. You learnt something out of that because it would have been. I mean, there's a lot of tough times too. Probably working a lot of those. A lot of the contractors, they used to talk about the rates a lot, and they were quite low, difficult to make money. Probably you probably make a fair bit of money. I know when I first got there, there's a lot of money going around, a lot of money flying around. Probably contractors were getting paid quite well. Is that how you saw it as well? Like at the start?
I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was. I think it's tougher now. To be honest with you, I actually think it's tougher
to make.
Now.
You mean just to make money?
To make money.
Yeah.
The rates themselves, I don't believe have really reflect where the regulations have come in, and it makes installs now a lot tougher, more time constraints, and if you've got to meet all the obligations, obviously from our point of view, from an inspection point of view, but also from WorkSafe.
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot to it now, isn't there?
There is.
Yeah, most definitely. All right, well, we're going to get into a fair bit of that throughout the show. I want to reflect back a little bit now. Let's rewind. Let's go back to. I'm guessing. Well, you're about the same age as me. I think you might be a few.
43.
Months.
Yeah,
you're 43. Yeah. So I reckon you probably started your apprenticeship around the same time I did, maybe earlier. So what year did you start?
1998.
98. Okay, you're earlier than me. I started in 99. All right, let's rewind back to 1998. What were you doing, and how did you get into the electrical industry? Because you wouldn't be doing solar then. Solar was like just a weird off-grid thing that no one did.
That's right.
And I want to say thank you to all those solar pioneers at the time who did what they did, because you've made the industry into what it is today, which is a great one. But let's go back to 1998. How'd you get into it? What did you do? What was your first job as an apprentice?
So I actually went to university straight from high school and was studying commerce. but I think sitting in a lecture room really wasn't my forte.
Yep.
And probably being a bit young and a bit of a party animal back then wasn't probably the best outcome. So
Hang on, 98. So did you finish year 12?
yeah,
You did. So you went straight out from year 12 because that would have been your graduation year, right?
yeah,
Does
that's
that,
right.
Yeah, same as me.
So, and then I decided that Dad said you're not leaving university without having a job. So I
Yep.
grabbed the yellow pages out. And
You sound really old, man. Just saying that. The yellow pages.
I know. I reflect back now.
Let your
and I
fingers do
think-
the walking.
Absolutely. And I think back now, I think, gosh, my son would never know what a yellow page
Nah.
was. So,
No, it's funny.
yeah, so I literally went through suburbs
Yeah.
that I thought were close to my parents' place. Where
Where you living then? Where'd
I
you
was
grow
in
up?
Upway.
Upway, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then and a company in Box Hill said, yep, start, and you can start Monday. And that was my arrival to the electrical industry. I didn't look back. That started off doing rewires, days and days in
Your back still hurt from those rewires, or
back, knees, everything. In roofs and under houses for days on end.
yeah.
And then new homes as well, and moved into real estate maintenance about 2 years later, and that's where my fault finding skills, I really developed those.
Yep.
Which I'm really thankful for, because it came to play in becoming a licensed electrical inspector.
Sure.
You really need to know how to get around on your faults. So
Yeah, I found a lot of LEIs are quite good with fault finding.
Yeah.
That seems to be the thing that they were always pretty good at Sparky.
yeah, that's
Yeah, that
right.
was probably the best thing I was at too, fault finding.
I think it's
Yeah.
because it makes you think outside the square.
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not a simple case of grabbing a PowerPoint and cutting
Yeah.
a hole and running a bit of cable and joining it in.
Yep.
So I think that's a big part to it. And then from there, I went overseas.
Yep.
About the same time Pete Leeson was overseas.
I was about to mention Pete.
Yeah.
You can't get through a podcast without mentioning one of the Leesons.
You've got to put Pete and Matt in there. For
Yes,
sure.
you went to trade school with Pete. Is that right? No. How did you know Pete? How did you meet him?
So the guy I was working with at the time, through my early apprenticeship, the first 2 years there, he was friends with Pete. They played footy together. And
okay.
Pete worked at a company in Ferntree Gully, and then some weekends I'd go give Pete a hand working at that company. When they needed a chop out. So that's how I met Pete, and he played footy, and I used to go down to the footy club, and it was good. He's a good fella, as Pete.
Had a really good time with doing your getting into your A grade. What did you get qualified? Did you get in your A grade? What year was that?
2003.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's when I meant to get qualified, but I didn't get it till 2007 because I took ages to do all my
Schooling
all my schooling and everything. So I was a bit slack with that. But yeah, 2003. Okay, that's great. And then you went into the solar industry, and when was that? When did you, or how'd you get into solar? What was your lead way in?
Yeah, so 2003, qualified, went overseas in 2004 and 5, and worked overseas for myself on a construction site, or subcontracting construction site, a bit like what Peter did. And then came back and decided I'd start my own business.
Was that in the UK?
That was the UK, yeah.
London?
London.
Yeah, right.
Yep. Yeah, they love the Aussie workers over there.
Yeah, because they work.
We just work, and obviously we're also we don't take things for granted.
Yeah.
Over there you can, in an hour you're in another country. Over here in an hour you're Ballarat from my place.
Yeah, basically. Not
So,
even. You can't even get to, not even.
Ballarat from my place. But
No.
so yeah, came back end of 2005, 2006 started business, and
Yep.
the rep program was in place, and we were in a business partnership back then, and we sort of looked into it, and we thought the way forward for the future was renewable energy. John Howard invested into it, and we decided that we'd explore it. That was 2007. That's when I really got into it, and
Yeah, right. Yeah, John Howard cops a bit of a bad rap with a lot of people in our industry, but he was actually quite good for our industry. Looking back now, start of the STCs, I mean, you can debate whether STCs are a good thing or a bad thing. Without the STCs, though, there's no way our industry would be what it is today.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah, it was actually quite a good thing.
Well, back then it was the AGO rebate. It was $8,000.
Oh, that's right. I remember the 8.
Yeah.
I jumped in on the back of that at the end of it.
that's right. Yeah, so that was one of many nights of staying up to midnight to get a whole heap of forms filled in, because when they pulled the AGO rebate, you had to have all your customers' paperwork uploaded or emailed was email back then. Wasn't even any portals and things back then. So
Yeah, fax.
oh gosh, yeah,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
never a dull moment in the solar industry. It was like that from the start.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So you've done a fair bit of contracting, and you've got your own. I mean, you've still got your own solar business. Probably not as active now as you were once. Mm-hmm. You want to tell us a little bit about your contracting business as a solar installer, or all the other things you've done as well?
Sure. So so Premier Solar Installations was one of the businesses. It was set up as a commercial subcontracting business, or initially as a subcontracting business, and then we focused and really wanted to hone in on the commercial industry. We started that that actually started in 2011.
Yep.
2016 we started doing, or 15 I think it was, we started doing commercial. And I remember when we got our very first 10 kilowatt system, it was like, geez, what are we going to do here?
That's a lot of panels.
There's a lot of panels. But, and then it started moving through to our very first 100 kilowatt system. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, wow, this is incredible. And what am I going to do? And you just sit down and work through it logically. And we had some great support too. Some of the clients we were working with were fantastic. Some of the best engineers.
Yeah, good supporting engineers.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it makes a difference, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And logistics as well. Did you find they were good at helping you work through the installation? Whether it's your planning side of things, you might do some of them. I'm tipping you would have had to do a crane lift, and you would have had to drop them on the roof and those sort of things. So when they help out with that sort of stuff, and they don't just sort of leave you to your own device, I find that's been a really big help.
Yeah, absolutely. So one company comes to mind. The very first ones we were doing were Energy Matters, then Sun Edison and Flex, and made some great friends out of those companies too. We just had some great support through there right at the early stages of commercial installations. They were really technical, and that was easing. For our peace of mind, for being out there to install it, to know that you're not on your own. And then we moved on to Autonomous Energy, who were they were phenomenal. I don't have a bad thing to say about that company. They've now been bought out by Iberdrola, but the staff there, led by Matt Linney, just really professional, great experts, and really had our back, even though they were interstate. Are they Sydney, was it?
Yeah,
New South Wales. Yes,
yeah,
Sydney.
okay.
Yep. But really professional company.
Yeah, okay, great. So you did a few big jobs with them too, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Most notable and still very proud of is the Melbourne Museum that had some real issues with logistics. One was
the helicopter.
Yeah, how do we get the panels up there? And there were some late nights and some sleepovers in the city and so on to get the panels up there. And
you're telling me the story about this yesterday. Actually, you mentioned something about eating Chinese on a roof. Because is that right? You want to tell us about that?
Oh no, we didn't eat Chinese on the roof. We Solomon and Els had come down from Sydney, and we'd gone out and we ate Chinese, and I think we had it was about 10 o'clock at night. We had about 2 hours sleep, and then had to be back out there to prepare for the helicopter lift. There was only a certain window to keep the noise pollution down. Oh gosh, and we had 2 weekends to do it, and it was literally to the last 20 seconds was the last lift before they cut. Yeah, no more helicopter lift. So
wow,
it was actually a really eye-opening experience, because the amount of time that went into to make sure that it ran so smoothly, the planning, that was all done by Els and Solomon there at Autonomous. Working alongside there with Siemens. So, and it was very professional.
Yeah, okay. Interesting. Sound like a really good company to work for, and you've obviously learned a lot from them.
Absolutely.
I'm tipping they've learned a lot from you as well. So that's really good to hear. All right. Well, I think we're going to head to a break in a sec. When we come back from the break, Vaughan, I want to change gears a little bit and talk about your journey in becoming a licensed electrical inspector.
Sure.
So that's where you're at now. So we'll go to a break, and when we come back, we'll have a chat about that. Let's hear from our sponsors. And we're back. Thank you very much to our sponsors. Very important for Radio Karam that we have our sponsors. So thank you very much for your contribution. So Vaughan, we've had a bit of a chat about your journey as an electrician, licensed electrical worker and an apprentice, and starting in the solar industry. So you're now an LEI. What made you want to become an LEI? Like, what is it about being in a licensed electrical inspector that was attractive for you when you first thought about doing it? What was the thing that you thought about that was going to be attractive for you?
I think initially it was for me. I like to educate. I like to help people if I can, and if I see an opportunity to bring good to the table, then I want to explore that and pass on those experiences and knowledge to other people. A little bit was subcontracting itself. It started personally affecting me, especially after COVID. When I really reflect back now, what are we now? 2 years past COVID?
Yeah, two,
something like that.
Ages ago.
Yeah, it seems like ages ago. But, I think that played a huge part as well. I saw a change in people. I saw a change in myself.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a good change. I think working for myself, and you touched on this last week in the episode there with Christine. You have to be pretty resilient in this industry. It's really strong. It's up and down. They call it the solar coaster for a reason. And I think I'd ridden that coaster a lot.
Yeah. So did you just sort of see?
Years. So
yeah, fair enough. So did you just sort of see being an LEI as being the next natural progressive step as part of your journey? Is that
Absolutely.
what sort of? Yeah. Did you think about doing it like when you were an apprentice or anything like that?
Certainly not. I think once I got my A grade and I went through the testing back then, and you probably fell under the same program that we had.
Yeah.
Now it's broken up into 3 parts, sat differently on different days.
No, mine was
75%.
Yeah, mine was 75. No, yours was definitely harder. My one was it was over the 3 days. So I think there must have been it must have changed over just before I started to do it. So I did I did the 3 exams. I only had to do 2 of them actually.
Geez, you're lucky.
Yeah, no, the third one because I won't go into it too much, but I actually had to restrict because I wasn't an apprentice anymore to keep working. I had the L license or something like that. Yeah, whatever that is. So I had to do a safe to approach type exam to get that. So I got an exemption for that for my A grade. Okay. So I had to do the LEP and the LET.
Gotcha. Yeah. So mine was
you had to do. Yeah, you want to talk about
different.
that?
Yeah.
different.
Oh gosh, that was tough. So when I first started as an apprentice, it was 24 in the class.
Yeah.
By the time we got to our last year of school, there was 8. Out of that 8, 2 of us passed first go.
Yeah.
The exam was actually theory and practical, sat on the same day. Over an 8-hour period. So it was an 8-hour exam and you got called up from, you'd be sitting down doing a maximum demand calculation or a voltage drop calculation, and the next thing you get a tap on the shoulder, you need to now go and, do your practical. Oh gosh. So you get out of that and go over there.
But you had to pass them together, is that right?
You had to pass them together. You had to get 75%.
That's tough.
Above 75%.
No wonder they changed it.
Yeah, absolutely. They had to. It was so tough. And if you failed one, you had to resit both.
Yeah.
So it was really tough. And I think also that had a huge part in why, labour out there was so restricted for licensed electricians, especially because it was really tough. And funnily enough, the 2 that passed first go are now both licensed electrical inspectors.
Is that right?
Yeah. So the other fella, Andrew Bergdorf is his name. He actually was. I worked with him at in the second part of my apprenticeship at the real estate maintenance.
Yeah, right.
Very knowledgeable fella. Actually, he ended up at ESV.
Okay.
And now he's back out doing his own inspections and consulting. And sometimes I'll give him a call because he's just a wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, great. Well, anyone out there who's thinking about doing an LEI, I don't think you have to pass your A grade first time. I actually failed my theory the first theory exam for my A grade the first time.
Yep.
So you can improve and you can get better, and the system is there to enable you to be able to do that. So I must say, when you did all these exams, we go back to mostly last year and the year before that when you had your journey as a LEI and getting qualified with that. So, so how do you? Yeah, like I still, when I talk about that, I've actually just got goosebumps just talking about it. Like it was a period in my life that was really, really difficult, just from being demoralised from failing over and over again. So I think you had a similar experience to me. Do you want to have a little talk about that? Your journey to becoming an LEI?
Absolutely. It's funny you say, you can go back and study, because that's exactly what I had to do for my inspector's license.
Yeah.
The GPAC, which is normally part 3. You can sit it in any which way you'd like. I actually went theory first, and theory's not too hard as long as you put the time in and study, obviously.
Yep. So let's break this down. So just for those of you who don't know, there's 3 exams that you need to do. So first of all, you need to be an A grade for 5 years.
Yep.
And then you need to pass 3 exams to be able to become a G class inspector. So we've got the safe to approach, first one.
So theory, then
theory
safe to
first,
approach, and then G class.
So theory is theory, and then safe to approach, and that's a practical exam, and then you've got your big practical.
That's right.
Exam. So
that's the hurdle.
That's the one a lot of people have a lot of trouble with. Yeah.
So I definitely I struggled with G class initially. Even right through
GPRAC, sorry, you mean?
The GPRAC.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Right.
The GPRAC.
Yeah.
I don't want to say the GPRAC, G class. I'm just over the G word altogether after that experience. But it's really tough. And like you said, demoralising. You start doubting yourself big time, because you're putting the time and the effort in. And the hardest part is there's no feedback. Like you're putting your paper in, and you're getting a score, but you can't review. And I find that...
Well, they do give you a phone call, don't they? But it's not... You don't really find it much, do you?
No. And it might be simple things like your descriptions. So, look, I reflect back on that now, and it definitely made me better by the time I did pass.
Yeah.
I think if I passed at first go, honestly, I wouldn't have known as much as I do now.
Yeah.
I really had to put the time in. And that's weekends, that's nighttime.
Yeah.
After work.
What does your life look like then? So you got a full-time job when you're running your own business as well. So you've got that happening. That's difficult anyway, no matter what you're doing, even if you've got help. And then you've got this other huge thing, which is hanging over your head almost.
Yep.
And it sort of turns into a bit of a burden at times. But what does your life look like then? So you'd go do your jobs and then you'd come home, and is that what it was for you? And then study?
Yeah. So one thing I failed to mention before was Australian Solar Doctors was actually formed in 2016. And I formed that company and really started contracting in 2018 to help people who had systems that were orphaned over the years or not getting the right support that they required. So I was doing that during the day.
And that's like service warranty stuff.
Service warranty.
Yeah. Post. You're not doing, you're not concentrating on new installations, is that right? You're doing more...
really? A little bit of new
You're doing a little bit, but I suppose the solid doctors thing, like you're diagnosing things and you're fixing stuff.
Yeah, that's it. More repairs.
Yeah, repairs,
Yep. And also I was doing auditing. So, that dirty word that everyone hates. Oh, he's TechSafe auditor. We're not all that bad.
No, we're not.
we're actually pretty good guys. But and no, we don't go making up defects. I can promise you with that. So,
yep.
Yeah. So. So I was doing that, and then at night time come home and you're pulling the books out. One thing I'm really thankful for there on the auditing is it made me better. I'd start using the descriptions better. You start what I was learning at school and so on. I studied at Technical Training Australia in Mulgrave.
Yep.
And also with Jason Smallman out at Sunbury, and both were really good.
Yep.
And Jay still takes my calls now, and he's really helpful.
Yep.
He's
quite engaged, Jace.
Sorry,
he's quite engaged in the industry, and he's a real
knowledge,
real hardcore inspector.
Oh, hardcore by the book, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wealth of knowledge.
Yeah.
And I'm really fortunate to have those sort of people to lean on as well now. Because it's like anything. Once you get your A license, that's the
beginning.
First part. It's the beginning, and then you've got to start, really thinking about what you're doing and learning the experience, and making sure you're making the right calls. Because at the end of the day, you and I ultimately we're responsible for signing that certificate.
Yeah.
So it was really tough at night time.
Yeah.
Really tough. And
Yeah.
weekends, tough on the family. A
that's-
lot of sacrifice.
Isn't it ever? It really. I found the same. Like we've both got wives named Joe.
Yeah.
Both Joes
Yep.
are like extremely resilient people, supportive as well.
Yes.
Anyone thinking about doing the LEI who's not in a supportive relationship, you're going to have real trouble getting through.
Yeah, you're going to struggle. Absolutely.
And just for her to hold me up, and I know Joe did the same for you, hold you up, encourage you, because it's so difficult. You're getting through these exams, and you feel like you've done pretty well.
Yeah.
And then you get to the end of it, and you get a score that you're not expecting, and then you can't go for it for another 60 days.
That's right. That was tough.
Yeah, so there's just so many just different tough little things. So the 60-day thing, the 75% thing, the lack of feedback.
Yes.
I mean, you can tell they want people who want to be inspectors in the industry, and I get that part of it.
Yep.
Do you reckon it's too hard to be an inspector, or do you reckon it's about right? Or
I think it's about right.
You reckon it's about right?
I think so. It's got to be tough. The end of the day, we don't want an influx of inspectors who have only just got over the line and probably not put the time and effort in that it's required.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we've got to make the calls too. So we have to know that book, and there's obviously always going to be a matter of opinion, difference of opinion between inspectors. But I think that's where even this collaboration right now, it's really good because we get to throw what our opinions are, and sometimes we don't. I mean, we don't all think the same. So,
no, definitely not.
And when we get some experiences that are a bit different, it's good to get some other insights to how they understand things.
For sure. Look, my opinion on it, I think it should be tough.
Yep.
Whether it's too hard or not hard enough, I'm not really sure about that. I think just what should be concentrated maybe a little more on, or maybe a little less on, is the speed that you're required to work. And what I found quite difficult, especially the first few times I went through my G-Prac, I was struggling with time. And I did things which helped me with time towards the end. Like I ended up working out a way to be able to overcome that barrier.
Yep.
But for me as an inspector, I feel like that's a barrier you shouldn't really be trying to come up against, because I feel like you need to be able to take your time, make sure you're right, and then be able to be confident in whatever your answer is. So I was able to overcome that. But yeah, if you're a little bit slow with a few things, you're
gonna get run out of time.
You can run out of time, yeah. I found I did it a few times, or what I'd do, I'd be flying, I'd be doing really, really well, and then there was just a couple of standards where I couldn't quite find exactly where they are, or couldn't quite get the wording or whatever it was, and it just made the whole thing difficult. And I still knew my stuff, I just couldn't do it in that period of time.
I have a question for you. How did you, because obviously I think we sat at about the same sort of time, four times or 5 times, whatever it might have been.
Yep.
And just missing out. Did you change your approach when you went into that room? For me, I sort of looked at it and went, okay, use my reading time, read the paper properly, and then look for some technicals that you may be able to find. If
I look at my approach from my first exam to my fourth one, it changed a lot. It definitely did change a lot. So I think probably the biggest thing was, by the time I got to the fourth one, I had a very clear strategy on what to do, what to look for, and the things I'm trying to do and trying to achieve here. And one of the big things I learned from it was, all right, first of all, you've got to get all these defects and find them. So I'd go for the quick wins first.
Yep.
So that was like my best strategy, I think.
Yep.
Find the quick wins, the ones I see straight away. Don't go, I'll put them down later. I put them down straight away, got them down, and then so the ones that I needed the extra time on, I had them there.
Yes.
So that was the biggest sort of game changer for me, getting my head around that.
I found that settles your nerves a bit too.
Yeah. Actually getting a few on the board.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nothing
like runs on the board, isn't
that's
there?
Right.
That's why you always bat.
White.
That's right. You always bat first because you get runs on the board.
That's
it's
right.
always
then you're not chasing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I found.
Yep.
That's what I found, and it was mainly the strategy.
Yes.
And then also I tried to not look at the clock. That was another thing, which is it sort of seems counterintuitive a little bit because you're up against the clock. But if I didn't look at the clock, I wasn't, I suppose, up against it.
Yeah.
So I kind of forget about it a little bit. And then by the time I got to that last exam, I actually had some time left over in the end.
That's good.
Yeah, so that was sort of my strategy, but it's tough
It is
times.
absolutely tough for you.
Yeah,
and tough for the family.
Yeah, most definitely. I also want to agree with you as well, like with the audits as well, because I was a Solvic auditor before I became an LEI too.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so I found one of the things to practice, because practicing writing your defects is probably one of the hard things. So finding them is actually quite easy a lot of the time.
Yep.
Writing them in the way that they want them written,
correct,
and getting the wording exactly right is some of the things that the LEI struggle with. So I found I was doing audits like 2 days a week, I think, at that time. So I was practicing writing my audits in
the manner that the exam has to be written. Yeah.
Exactly, that's what I was doing, and it got me really good at it. So we, like I made up a board which I shared with you.
Yeah.
You know,
very thankful for that.
Yeah.
Too.
So what I did is I actually made up a board to practice my testing on, because I found I wasn't, when I first started doing it, I wasn't as good of a tester as I thought I was, and I had to get good at it. So I was using that board and trying to write defects in the way that they need to be written, and look, I think that sort of really helped me, that with the audits and then having a strategy.
I think being a CER inspector as well, you know, because we actually do have to sit there and write the audit, find the clause, and then elaborate on that, what that is, what, how, and where is the defect, and that's that really helped as well. Yeah,
sure. So let's jump into that a little bit. So you do, you're doing CER audits. So the audit work you do, it's very similar to my profile, actually.
Yeah, it is.
So you're a Solvic auditor, you're a CER inspector.
Yep.
And you're also an LEI signing off prescribed electrical work, which a lot of that is probably solar, but you probably do truck appointments. And so I don't do truck appointments, but you probably do. I don't like doing them.
I actually just finished the VESI training. So so now it will allow me to work on networks and so on. But I do have some private prescribed inspections, doing new connections and repairs and things like that as well. Yeah, right. I find inspections and audits really helpful for the industry.
Yep.
It's good feedback. I know there's a lot of negativity around auditing and the auditors themselves and so on.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you're doing compliant installations, that's what we want to achieve at the end of the day, safe and compliant installations.
Do you reckon that negative feedback or that negative sort of thinking about auditors and inspectors, do you reckon that's warranted, some of it, or not? Or do you reckon a lot of the people on there are just like, well, if you do compliant work, then you don't have to worry about it? Like, that's a lot of the time, that's where it boils down to for me. Be interested to what you think about it. Like, I think some people do get it wrong sometimes. Some inspectors get it wrong.
Yeah, look, everyone makes mistakes, don't they?
Yeah.
And just because you're an inspector and auditor doesn't mean that you're, the highest of almighty. So people learn. Everyone learns from mistakes and it's okay. It's fine. If you've got an issue, there's avenues and ways to raise that.
Yep.
And it'll come back and we can look at it and take your opinion and valid. And if we believe, I can see that, not a problem, it can be overturned. So it's not the be all end all, because you may have a non-compliant defect. There are avenues to obviously have a second opinion of that, or
review it or whatever.
Have the inspector review it. That's right.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, look, I think most inspectors out there, they're trying to do the right thing by the industry, and look, we're all tied by our role, and that's to make sure that safe and compliant installations are being installed to meet all regulations.
Yeah.
And to, at the end of the day, protect the installers themselves, from ESV auditing, from a Solvic audit, demerit points, from the CER, and that's what I really want to do is make sure that the guys that I do, or the teams that I do the inspections for, they're going to be the best installers. That's what I want.
That's sort of I agree. I totally agree. That's sort of, I suppose, my kind of selling point as inspector. I want to stop my contractors from getting demerit points. I want to keep them out of trouble, and I want to help them.
That's right.
So if you've got an inspector who's just turning up or not turning up or whatever they're doing, not going through the job the way they should, probably charging you $150, $180, whatever the cheap rate is at the moment, you're not getting that value as well, and you probably are getting demerit points.
That's
and
right.
you probably are getting yourself in trouble. So for me, it's the LEI is like it's like QA for
Absolutely.
the installers. It's actually another set of eyes.
Absolutely.
It's someone else in your corner, and it's someone you can count on, who you can rely upon and you trust.
Yeah, absolutely. My phone's on all the time. I take phone calls from installers who I don't even do prescribed work for. It's just, I've been there. You're on site and you're like, oh no, am I doing this right? Well, what's the reg around this? I haven't got the book on me, or I don't know the reg about it. You just want that comfort to speak to someone, and I feel that's what our role is to be that person on the other end of the phone, a bit like your boss at the end of the day, isn't it? It's like your employer. You're an employee, and you want to call your employer, and you want that that satisfaction of, oh, they've got my back.
Yeah.
And that's what I think our role is. So
I agree. I think that is our role. I think there's a lot of inspectors out there that don't see that as our role. I think some inspectors still think that, maybe they're a bit old school or whatever, and they just want to come down with the big stick, or they just want to be, a bit my way or the highway. That type of thinking. And I feel like, especially in solar, there's so much to be over. There's so many different standards, regulations, rules, with so many different things. The more people you can have in your corner.
Code of conducts, guidelines, all those are, all bound by regulations and so on. So you're 100% right there. There's a lot to know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we're on the same page with that. Any other inspectors this is the thing. Those inspectors are probably not going to be listening to this sort of stuff because they're probably not that interested in self-help development. Trying to make themselves better. But anyway, that's all fine. But yeah, I would like to think the new age of inspectors coming through are the ones who care, and the ones who want to help, and the ones who just want to help people's businesses and industries thrive and keep everyone safe.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And if you look at the new age inspectors, they're all sort of coming through about our age. So if we can carry that mentality all the way through, I think we'll start seeing a different look upon inspectors in the next sort of 10, 15 years. It'll be like they're a helpful role rather
until
than
we're the old ones. Till we're the old ones.
Yeah, that's right. And maybe then we'll have our grumpy stick.
Maybe we're the grumpy ones.
Who knows? Maybe. If you ask my wife, I probably already am.
We're already there. Yeah. Okay. I just also want to touch on the CER program. So you've been doing CER audits for a while.
2-3 years.
Yeah. You've applied again. Did you get your application in? Yeah,
yes.
me too.
Yep.
I got mine in as well.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're going to be continuing to do that. What do you reckon of the CER audit? It's a little bit different, right? So I feel like Solar Vic audits and prescribed inspections are quite similar. CER auditing is essentially you are doing a solar inspection. Mm-hmm. The checklist is quite different though. You got any feedback on the checklist? And if you don't, I do.
Yeah. I think the portal needs a bit of work, definitely.
Yep. So that's the inspections portal where we upload our inspections to.
That's where we practiced our descriptions and found the clauses and so on. So, so I suppose maybe it doesn't. Maybe that helps inspectors.
Maybe.
So around the list itself, I think it can be worked, definitely.
But what do you think about all those questions in there about, like, have you seen the questions in there about, like, is there any timber frames that are rotting or anything like that, or these type of things? So
they're old school, aren't they?
Oh, they're really, really old, and most of the time, I think there's a handful of questions in there that it's the same answer in every single CR inspection that I've ever done, and it's usually NA. Or
that's right.
It's just not applicable.
Yes, I've got the same.
Yeah, so it'd be good if I would really like. I don't know if the CEO listens to this. They probably don't, but it'd be good if that was tidied up. That would make things a lot better. And then the overall speed of the portal would be a big thing. I think it did have. There were some improvements, maybe 18 months ago, something along those lines. I know the screens went from being green to now they're blue. Yeah, and that was a huge improvement, and that was really good. So yeah, anyway, I'd like to see a few improvements there, but we'll see on the next tranche. Hopefully the CER
that's right.
can sort that out. CER inspection. So yeah, you're looking to do the next tranche and probably carry that on for the next few years, whatever it is.
I'll continue it on.
Yep.
I think it's obviously a very necessary program.
Yep.
Obviously, it's federal as well, so I'd be intrigued to see what the the figures are from state to state, to be honest, because Victoria with mandatory inspections, most of the CER inspections I do are usually pretty good because we have that quality assurance with prescribed inspections.
Yep.
I'd like to see, what the CER would come out with figures on adequate and versus. What was it? Not
improvement. No, not that. Improvement identified zone.
No, that's Solvic. Adequate
rectification required.
Yeah.
What's the other one? Yeah, there's
substandard.
Substandard.
That's it.
Substandard. That's
Yes.
the one. Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to see what the facts and the figures were on that. And
Well, I actually did a presentation in Sydney at the Smart Energy Conference.
I couldn't make that one.
No,
sorry,
you didn't.
mate.
That's all right. Well, I actually did a comparison.
Okay.
So the whole subject of my talk was about. It's the same thing I keep talking about is mandatory inspections shouldn't just be in Victoria. They should be in every state. And I've sort of targeted New South Wales as being the one who really should be making the leap. So they're a similar size to Victoria. I mean, relatively speaking, more people, a bit larger in area, but, they're relative, right? You can sort of compare them. And I sort of I can't remember the exact figures of what it was, but the unsafes in Victoria were much, much lower from the CER. This is from the CER data only.
Yep.
And the substandards were it was close to double in New South Wales as far as percentages go compared to Victoria. So there's, and the other thing I also wanted to mention with that is you've got a lot of the CER inspectors in Victoria. They're actually probably LEIs, like some of them anyway. They've got some, or there might be solar Vic orders as well. So they've probably got some inspection experience and see things from a certain way. Now, in other states where they may not necessarily have mandatory inspections in place, they may be just contractors who install and don't have as much experience or mainly in training in inspections like we do. So we don't know if they're picking up similar stuff or picking up too much or not enough. So I feel that skews the numbers a little bit. But I feel it skews the numbers more in the direction of it's actually worse than we think.
Yeah, that's right. I installed in New South Wales. I had a branch in there in 2010, just before the government decided to grab the gross feed-in tariff and bring it down from 60 cents to 20 cents.
Yeah.
It was certainly a completely different experience. Knowing that you didn't have an inspector coming over the top, looking at the work that you were doing.
Yeah.
Not saying that we did non-compliant work, but I could see even some of the staff that we had on there, it took a lot of training to get them up to a compliant stage of installation. So I really do think mandatory inspections are necessary.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're singing the same.
Podcast for another day.
Oh, look, I don't know. It just frustrates me that the appetite just doesn't seem to be there for some of the other states. And what I don't want is something to go wrong. I don't want someone to get hurt or killed or anything like that. We don't want to We don't want to have that on the front page.
It's not great for the industry.
No, it's not.
Every time there's a fire
that's right.
related to solar.
It's not great. That's right. So apart from, it's a terrible thing when someone gets hurt or killed. That's horrible for a whole lot of people, families that are involved, whatever it is, the people who find them, the emergency services. We're also talking about how bad it is for the industry and about how horrible this could potentially be. And I just see that and go, why don't we do something about this? Like, it's so obvious to me. And a lot of other people I speak to, it's obvious to as well. And then a lot of the people who are against it are like, oh, we're too highly regulated anyway. Oh, we don't want to become like you nanny staters in Victoria. But it's like, well, look, if you have a look at the figures, we're doing really, really well in Victoria. We don't have these type of issues.
That's right.
And I feel like the issues that they're seeing in other states, they haven't even uncovered what they might uncover with mandatory inspections because they're just not doing them. Yeah, so who knows what else is out there? That's what worries me.
Yeah, it worries me as well.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Okay. Well, we're gonna go to another ad break from our sponsors, and then we're going to talk some real technical stuff, the things we see out in the field every day. And you've got a few things you want to talk about. So this is going to be talking about actual installations and the things we see. So another word from our sponsors. Okay, we're back from our break now. Thanks very much to our sponsors again. So Vaughan, let's talk more about installations now and what we're seeing out there in the field. More commonly, what you're seeing out there. So, first thing that sort of, like you've sent me a list of defects that you kind of see, and I've had a bit of a look at it too. The first thing that jumps off the page to me would be installers when they don't install to manufacturer's instructions. So this is something that you kind of gets drilled into you as an inspector. We all know the clause in AS3000, which one it is. So 4.1.2, by the way, if anyone
412E.
Yeah, E. Sorry, E as well. Yep. So you must install the manufacturer's instructions. So if the manufacturer says you need to do something a certain way in the manual, then you need to do it. If you don't, it's not compliant.
Correct. Yep.
Any stuff you see where they're not following manufacturer's instructions? Anything that sort of jumps out to you?
Look, there's a few. Obviously, we've got different products, so you need to meet all the requirements in AS4777 with inverter installations as well.
Yep.
That calls for that you must follow the manufacturer's instructions there.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, I find there is the inverter not being installed meeting ventilation requirements.
Yeah.
People just installing where they think it looks good, or maybe the home, maybe they've been pressured. No, I really want it here. And I understand that from an installer's point of view as well. That pressure, you're trying to do the right thing because you want to be, you want the homeowner to come back to you, you want them to respect you.
Yeah.
But you've got to remember you still have an obligation to follow that requirement, and an inspector or an auditor is going to pick you up if you don't do that. And most inspectors who are from the solar industry generally can tell you straight off the top of your head. I know Fronius and Goodwee and Sungrow pretty much straight off the top of your head what the ventilation requirements are, so you can see it straight away and go, well, hang on, that doesn't meet it.
I must say, I don't know them all off the top of my head, but I know when it's going to be close, and then I'll refer to the manual.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
that's usually how I'll go about it.
Yeah. And it causes big issues because you might not be able to drop it down the 150 mil, because you need a 300 above or whatever it is. You may have to remove the whole inverter to an entirely different location. That's going to cost you money. So, and I'm only talking from my experience. When we did installations for subcontracting, I always asked what the products were. Whether it was commercial or residential, and get ourselves and my team across what is it that's going to make the install compliant.
How difficult do you think they are to get sometimes? Like, I suppose if you're working for a retailer who's maybe interchanging products between that they're pushing out to their subbies.
It's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, I reckon it is. I mean, this is where we've spoken about, like, making sure. Well, I always say, try not to install too many products.
That's right.
Too much stuff to be over.
Yeah, and then you run into all the monitoring issues as well, and setting up portals here and there. A quick Google sometimes can just.
Well, that's how I get it. Not most of the time. That's how I usually find them.
Yeah,
you just got to make sure you got the most current ones.
Right,
but most of the ones are pretty current. I feel inverter manufacturers usually will put the most current ones up.
Yep.
So they're pretty good at that.
Yep. And panel manufacturers again with clamp zones. We've got to be careful on clamp zones because what I find they are quite stringent. Plus or minus 50 mil.
Yeah, especially the big ones.
Yeah.
Especially the big ones. Yeah, that's right. You've only got a small zone you can put them in.
100 mil sometimes. So got to be really careful on that. And unfortunately, they will get pulled up. More in your CER because obviously we're required to go through all the manuals. I did have not an incident, but an inspection where unfortunately the installer, I pulled them up. We read the manual for the panel.
Yep.
They didn't, and I've been down this path myself.
Yep.
And in the manual, it actually stated that the panel is not to be any closer than 100 mil from the roof material.
Yeah, right.
I'm not sure.
That's really like.
How do you install that?
Yeah, how do you get that much clearance?
You don't, do you? A tilt frame, but even then the bottom.
No, but the bottoms, yeah.
There. Unfortunately for that installer, and it was because of it was a fire risk. It actually stated in there it's a fire risk. So, unfortunately for that installer, I found out they actually had to replace the panels at their own cost. Now, really tough.
Seems harsh, doesn't it?
Really tough. I can't see that being an issue per se, but the regulation calls for it. You must follow manufacturer's instructions. So, yeah, I felt really sorry for that installer.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose we look back at it, there is good reason for it too as well. It's not just because it's in the standard, but it's also, if you're not installing to manufacturer's instructions, well, you're not going to get a warranty.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. Manufacturers, after 17 years, manufacturers are all over this now.
Yeah.
That's why they want photos of the install. They want measurements. They want direct sunlight's a big one. The amount of inverters, even for Australian solar doctors, we've replaced where sunlight's actually, or the heat from direct sunlight's destroyed the electronics and destroyed the inverter.
So this is an interesting one. I find this sometimes hard to defect. So obviously everyone knows you don't put electronic type equipment out in the sun. It's not good for it, right? Now, there's no specific clause in any of our standards which says you can't install in direct sunlight. I mean, you can always look at the environmental factors and all those sort of things, right? But the one I always pull up, if it's in direct sunlight and I need to pull that one up, it's manufacturer's instructions, right? So that's where I pull that one up.
Yep.
There's some of the manufacturer's instructions, like I know there's one in particular where it just shows a picture of a house, and then it shows like an eave, and then it's got like a little bit of a cross, and then the next one, it's almost the identical photo, and it's got a tick.
Yeah.
So an installer could potentially say, it says I can do it here because this is pretty close to what I've installed. And I find that hard to defect sometimes because, I mean, obviously we know as an inspector, right? It's easy to find defects all the time. And the next one is recording it and proving it, and then being confident in that.
Yep.
So I found the way some of these documents are written sometimes can be quite convoluted or difficult to interpret or to be clear. So
yeah, I agree with you 100% there. But I also think, and I've chatted to installers about this. Why run the gauntlet?
Yeah.
Why put yourself in that position? Try to move it to a garage or move it where it's not going to be looked upon. Yeah. Where we're going to have 5 different interpretations of whether it's.
Well, see, this is where it's important to have a good LEI. Because if you had an LEI who knew this stuff, and you could just say, they're just going to say to you, not a good idea to do that. Don't do it. You need to move it.
Yeah.
Right. But the thing is, when you pull it up in like a Solar Vic audit or something like that, you've got to be 100% confident in that defect. Or sometimes you just can't put it down.
That's right.
So this is where it's you need to have a good LEI, and that'll protect you from even having these conversations, because they're time wasting for everyone as well.
That's right. Yeah. And if we can, it's all planning. If you can get it right from the start, it saves everyone heartache, doesn't it? So and like we're going back to the warranties. Our job's sort of to protect the homeowner too. Yeah. So, from an auditing point of view as well, we're protecting the homeowner, the consumer from having voided warranties because of installation. And that installer may not be around in 3 years' time or something. And
that's right.
And then, there might be a 10-year warranty on that inverter.
Yep.
Well, we all know, how difficult it's going to be to try and get that through the process through the manufacturer to not install correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly right. Or if the manufacturer's even going to be around.
Well, if the manufacturer's going to be around,
because then it falls to other people. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, we had a chat with Christine about that last week. Yep. Yeah, that's a whole nother. There's probably a couple of episodes on that. But yeah, that's another thing. All right, so another few other defects that I see on here. So we've gone to the disconnection points now. Been in it for a little while now. You've probably mainly, since you've had your LEI, you've pretty much mainly been doing disconnection points because it was May 2022 where it became mandatory. So you probably get the isolator every now and then when it's a cathedral ceiling or anything. How do you find disconnection points? Like, you've noted a few things down that you see. How do you find installers have picked that change up? Pretty major change.
Great for the industry.
Yep, I agree. Yep.
It's really reduced risk of fire, hasn't it?
Yep.
And water ingress and so on. So yeah, great change. A lot to get over. There's sort of 5 or 6 parts to disconnection points, isn't there? So
that's right.
We've got the labelling. You've got to know where the disconnection point has to be. The main one I find is the warning label.
The actual warning disconnection point label, the big one?
No, the one on the actual positive and negative.
Oh, the conductors, the ones for the conductors,
Yep, the PV array cables.
Yep.
That needs to be attached to both. And within 100 mil of that the major sign you're talking about that gets mounted on the structure. It has to be within 100 mil, and unfortunately...
you find a bit further away than that sometimes?
Sometimes you're sort of 300-400 mil, sometimes only attached to one of the conductors. And I don't mind... And I say to this to my contractors, I don't mind if there's only one label. Just make sure the cable tie goes around both conductors. You suffice the standard.
I'm glad you said that because that's something that I mean, look, I think it's probably best practice to have one on each.
Yeah.
But it's okay still to have them together. It looks for me as long as it's obvious.
Yeah, that's right.
It's got to be conspicuous, and then you're okay.
And just going to with the 100 mil, and I know that's tough. I know that can be tough to pull up, and you go, hang on, and it's there. And sometimes the panel manufacturer doesn't allow it. They have a really thin edge or maybe no edge, so it can be a difficult one to meet. But if we get an ESV audit, and as you know, as licensed inspectors, we do get audited quite a fair bit.
Yep,
they're going to pull us up.
That's right.
So it's not, we have to do our job and do it right. So. How we meet the standard is sometimes a little bit difficult as well, and we do understand that. But at the end of the day, we have to meet it. Yeah,
sure. Well, keeping to the disconnection point sort of theme here, you've also noted down. This is not just in disconnection points, but your MC4s, like you've got your MC4 glands. Your MC4 connectors at the disconnection point. You see a fair bit that they're not done properly, not tightened correctly to the conductor, or they're not. I find sometimes, if you can look at the crimp, it's not done right. How do you find MC4s?
Mainly with the MC4s, I find is the gland.
Yeah.
So it needs to maintain IP rating of the manufacturer, and it's very very easy for an auditor just to look at the MC4 and look straight down the end of it. And if we can see daylight, if we can see a big gap in there, you're not maintaining the IP rating. So. Usually there's MC4 tools. They're not expensive.
I've got one in my. I don't. I usually have one in my pocket.
I've got 2 or 3 in the car. And look, and I do. Yep. I do nip them up for my contractors. If they've forgotten it or something like that, it takes 2 seconds.
Well, I suppose that's almost like nipping them up. Like all you're really doing is checking it, aren't you? Because it's the same when you check a connection in a switchboard.
That's right.
You're pretty much nipping them up as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
we don't want ESV to think that you're doing electrical work for your installers or anything like that.
No, definitely not.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah, I find that too. The MC4s, generally most people are pretty good and they've got it now.
Yeah. It has been much better.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The last probably 6 months or so.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. All right, that's good. Another one we sort of had a bit of a chat about before was conduits not being glued in the ceiling. So this is something that I'm sure not all LEIs do, but like what we do it, we do it properly. Actually get in the roof and check the DC cabling. It's got to be glued. You find that much? That's not glued?
Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably one of the more common ones. The 5033 calls for any PV conductors in a wire enclosure.
Yep.
That wire enclosure must be sealed appropriately by methods such as glue.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that's one that I do find a lot. And I don't know if it's negligence or whether it's more that contractors don't know the standard. But that's something that must be, if it's in a roof cavity, it must be glued.
Yeah.
Also labelled. And this is contentious.
The solar.
This is a contentious.
I don't know. Do you reckon it is? Let's have a chat about it. What do you reckon?
Look, personally, I don't think it is. I think it needs to be. The standard calls that it must be distinctive. Distinctive
labelling. Yeah,
distinctive labelling. So just having the conduit pre-labelled, with the dark, electrical, solar, T, HD conduit for me isn't distinctive.
Yep.
That can be spun around. And a lot of times I can see it spun around, it's facing towards the eave. Someone in that roof cavity has no idea what that conduit is. Obviously we do. Maybe some electricians, they should do, have a bit of an idea what's going on.
Yep.
But if you just put a label on it, just put one every 2 meters, whether it's before you're running it into the ceiling or whatever, just like a red label or the white and green ones I see as well.
Yep.
Just put that around and you suffice. You meet the standard.
Yeah. See, for me, I think there's labelling and there's different types of, or when talking about being printed on the conduit.
Yeah, the printed conduit.
So I feel like some of them, I have seen some where it is actually really obvious and you can see it, and I'm like, I look at it and go, I'm happy with that.
Yep.
When it's really small or
facing a different direction.
Yeah. Like that's the whole thing we've always spoken about. Like first year apprentice, you're doing conduit work, you face the writing towards the wall.
Of course you do.
Yeah, but in solar, that's it. Solar, it's the other way around. Yeah. Got to make sure you can see it.
Yeah.
So
and that's next to the inverter as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
and if you don't like the printed, the print on the conduit, and you want to spin it around, by all means, but you must put a label on there.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, fair enough. All right. This is so a lot of this stuff is pretty standard stuff. Let's move into like.
I find the one here that I find a real lot, and it's the ESGR 211. The label that says warning this premise has alternate generating supply, and the isolator's located below or wherever it might be. You need to write that in. That needs to be
it's a Victorian only label.
That's a Victorian.
That's a
only
green
label.
one, yeah.
Yes, that's right. It needs to be on the switchboard to which the inverter connects to, and anything upstream of that switchboard. So if you're at a distribution 3, distribution board 3, which connects to distribution board 1 and which then goes to the main switchboard, it needs to be on all 3 of those switchboards. Unfortunately, some installers are still getting that one wrong and just putting it at the main switchboard, or just putting it at where the switchboard connects to. So I mean, it's one that I see quite a fair bit and have to pull up. And
you pull it up.
You don't really want to send people back, do you,
for labeling
for one label that's going to cost you. I know. But that's the standard.
It's a standard. It seems, like you can look at it from both sides. Like it seems like a trivial thing. So if it's so trivial, why don't you just do it? Yeah. Like I feel like they should just be doing it right. It's just as easy to get it right.
Buy a pack of 20, stick it in the truck.
Yeah.
From Trade Zone or whichever wholesaler you might use.
Yeah.
Sell them individually. Stick them in there. Stick the ones talking about, because obviously then the main switchboard would need to be labelled which distribution board the solar's connected to.
Solar's connected, that's right.
That one gets missed quite a fair bit as well.
Yep. Okay. Oh yeah, I'm big on labelling. I think it's really, really important, and if done right and done compliantly, I feel like it can make the install even look better. But if you just do it, if you just sort of throw them everywhere, because I still know some people who just get all the labels and they just put them all in, and then they're like, oh well, they're all adjacent to the switchboard or whatever, because they're all in the same spot, but they're really confusing and no one really knows. Like an emergency service worker is never going to be able to work it out. No, not at all. And that's what it's there for. You got to look at what the intention of these labels are there for. So. Yeah.
Well, I had an incident, or not an incident, an occasion doing an audit for a school during the week.
Yep.
And I couldn't find any labelling. It was a solar system, and the person I had to deal with, they were brand new to the school, so they didn't even know where the inverter was.
Yeah.
It took me.
Did they even know they had solar? Sometimes that's the case.
No, I've had that one before as well. But
yeah.
They knew that they had solar, and I could physically see the panels.
Yep.
But they didn't know where the inverter was. They didn't know where switchboards were. It took 40 minutes to walk through to actually locate all the equipment. Now, if there's an incident, you haven't got 40 minutes to try and locate equipment to isolate down. So it's really important to have these labels correct.
Especially in a school.
Yeah.
No, I agree. All right. So you've got a couple of products you've got in here. The ones you mentioned, first one, well, they're batteries. So you're seeing some anti-islanding issues with a particular battery.
Yep.
So I'll explain that. It's when it connects to the grid in a shorter space of time than the minimum requirement of 60 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're finding that a little bit. You'd obviously do that test.
Yeah, that's right. So under our auditing, even as an inspector, it should be picked up as an inspector. So when I do my inspections, obviously these are the things I'm looking for.
Yep.
But it's been found through auditing. Obviously, some inspectors probably don't know it either. So, so this will really help some inspectors on what to look for outside of just the standard, installation.
What is in the standard? Oh, sorry. When you say standard, it is actually in the standards.
It is in the standards.
It says it in there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about installation standards, so the restricted locations and so on.
Sure.
So your anti-islanding, unfortunately, there is a battery out there. I'm not even sure if I'm allowed to.
No, I think you can. No, you can talk about it.
Okay, great.
Yep.
The SunGrow battery. SunGrow, great company.
Yep.
Got nothing against them personally. I've installed their equipment. Not a problem. But the battery, when we anti-island that system and it connects to the battery, and the battery is now supplying the home, when we reinstate the grid, what I've found was that the battery would reconnect within 1 or 2 seconds. the inverter would reconnect within 1 or 2 seconds to the grid.
inverter, yep.
So obviously that doesn't meet the standard. Now, there is a very simple solution. I've spoken with Sungrow. Sungrow are aware of it, and we're straight on the front foot. It's just a firmware upgrade.
Perfect.
But installers have to make that phone call. So good on Sungrow. They know about it, and they've got the answer.
Well, that's good. That's actually good you've named them, I think, because then it shows they're proactive about fixing their issues.
Yeah, no, they're really good to deal with. So
yeah, good.
It was probably just a slight oversight. And like I said, it's only a 5-minute fix.
Yeah. So you've found a few of them. I've run into that once.
Yep.
I've seen it once. You've seen it a few times, I think, have you?
Yep.
Yeah. I've definitely seen that one. The other one was the
parallel earth.
Parallel earthing. That's right. So that means you've got current flowing through the MEN when. Hang on, let me think about this one. When it
goes into backup mode.
Goes into backup mode. That's right. Yeah. So
it creates an MEN within the battery.
Yeah, so you got a parallel path, and you've basically got current flowing through that MEN link.
Yeah, that's right.
Looking for a neutral.
Yeah,
is that right?
So
that's right. It's looking for a neutral.
Yeah. So you need to, as an inspector, as an installer. I mean, at the end of the day, you're signing the CES.
Yeah, they should both be. It should be between the installer and the inspector, someone should be picking it up.
That's right. Yeah. So I mean, that's as an installer, you're signing a certificate saying you've completed all your mandatory testing.
Yeah.
And then as an inspector, obviously, you need to verify all that. So put a backup load on.
Yep.
I usually put a kettle or something on. So it's got a bit of current flow.
Yep.
And then it's a pretty simple test. Just clamp the MEN and protective earth or the MEN and make sure that there's no current flow through it.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, when I first saw that one come up, because that sort of got flagged to me as something to start looking for because there was a known issue.
Yep.
And I looked at it and going, oh, geez, how do you test for that? How do you test for that? It was really easy.
Yeah,
it was really easy, just basically putting my dong tester on the MEN.
Absolutely.
And if there's current flowing, because there shouldn't be current flowing through your MEN under normal conditions.
Not under normal conditions, no.
Yeah, that's right. So that was quite a simple test. Yeah. And then you've got a few other things in there with, this is one I sort of see a fair bit. The glass with batteries, where you're seeing not fire rated. You see that a little bit?
Yeah,
you see the windows?
Bit, unfortunately, yeah, because some stores are still getting caught with, windows, and they say, well, it's not an open window.
Not an openable window.
Openable window.
Yeah, in a habitable room.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we need to prove that glass is fire rated.
Yeah.
And if it's not...
Well, it's also, it's not just, saying something's fire rated is one thing. It's actually got to meet AS 1530.
That's right.
It's got to be tested to that.
Yes.
So then essentially they'd have to approve that. I don't know how much glass is rated to 1530. I wouldn't know.
Once again, it's that running the gauntlet, isn't it?
You are, yeah. It's just not worth having that conversation, really.
No.
Go put it somewhere else.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree.
That's one we do come up with, coming across sometimes.
Yeah.
Obviously, the hole's greater than 5 mil with a habitable room behind.
Yep.
That's another one I see quite a fair bit. And it's more... I think it's more that they're not seeing. They're just saying, okay, I can put the battery there.
Yep.
Forgetting that you've got a vent. It might be 200 mil away or 300 mil away.
Yep.
And the vents have holes greater than 5 mil.
Yeah.
Or someone's, done a penetration through under the house or something like that. That all needs to be covered. Needs to be fire rated.
Yeah. So it's only, that's right. No, but it only needs to be covered and fire rated inside that fire rating zone. Yeah. That's right. Which is the 600 each side and 900 above. Yep. That's correct. All right. No, that's all good. So what else? We got any others we're seeing? You've got...
we spoke about clamp zones and things like that. On the roof, feet maybe.
Distance of feet with your...
feet.
Yeah.
I think we're getting over that though. I think, is it Mac 5, is it? Mac Fasteners, I think, have S5 range.
S5, yeah. S5.
They've got a pretty good product out, haven't they?
Yep.
That meets a lot of and negates a lot of those issues with feet spacing, especially with over purlins and within 100 mil.
Yeah.
And so on.
Really, we shouldn't be running into too many of those issues in Victoria if they do it right. You're probably in a little bit different when you're getting into the cyclone rated areas of Australia.
Yes.
Where it's going to be different. You need your feet spacing a lot closer together.
Yeah, that's right. What about roof profiles? Pretty hard to tell, isn't it?
Yeah. I must say I'm not very good at it. Like we had a conversation about this yesterday, and you sound like a bit of an expert on it.
Yeah, I don't know about an expert. I think it's just because of my days of being an installer and going out to tendering and things like that. You'd have to make sure that that was a clip lock 700 series and not a king clip or a speed deck or something like that. And if you look at in the manual, that can be half the amount of spacing, which means double the amount of feet, double the amount of labour and materials. So it really dramatically changes the price.
Yeah, good way to cut corners too. If you can get away with only putting half the amount of feet in.
That's right.
Do you get it? You're probably going to win a lot more jobs.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like there are a lot of those things that we've spoken about. I mean, we'd love to see compliant installations all the time, 100%. Never going to get to that because we're working with a workforce who are learning, who are trying to get better, and they come up with issues every now and then. But most of the stuff I'm seeing is pretty good. Like most of the stuff you've put down, nothing's really unsafe. Like,
no,
we're not really seeing too much. I certainly haven't. I haven't seen that much. I've seen my fair share, but I haven't seen that much. Like,
not unsafe.
No, it's been a little while since I've opened up, an AC isolator or something like that, and it's just sitting there arcing, or cooked a neutral bar because about a poor connection on the solar earth or something like that. I've certainly seen it.
Neutral, yeah.
Solar neutral.
Hopefully it's not.
Hope it's not the earth. Yeah, we don't want that arcing. But yeah, I've certainly seen a neutral bar like totally cooked.
Yeah.
Just from a loose connection.
Transposition I've seen.
Yeah.
Quite a fair bit. More in the auditing, not in inspecting.
Transposition of conductors.
Yeah, neutral earth.
Yep.
Yeah.
What on the solar cable going back to the board?
The AC cable, yeah. Whether it's from the inverter to the AC isolator.
Or in the plug.
Or in the plug, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So, and we can pick that up. And that, once again, that's a pretty simple test. That's just your tong tester again.
Yeah.
Have the inverter obviously producing current and check your active. And then check your neutral and make sure there's nothing on the earth.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, you want to have a similar current on your earth.
Neutral.
Earth.
Please don't say that.
Active to neutral. So you're pretty much they're basically going to be identical.
Yeah.
But sometimes there's a little bit of variance. You might
the
sun might be going. A cloud might come over right when
right.
you're doing your tong test.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's an important test. I do that on every single job.
I absolutely. It's almost the first test.
Yep.
So obviously earth resistance first, and then tong test to make sure that inverter's not. Because I have picked up where the inverter's not been earthed, and it's not that it hasn't been earthed. The earth connection inside the plugs come out.
Ah, right.
And because they didn't do a secondary earth, because some manufacturers aren't calling for that anymore, that inverter's not earthed, and that's a simple test for us to pick up straight away. So it's a nice phone call back to the installer and fix your job.
So is that like it physically came out of the plug, did it?
Yeah.
Or just not terminate correctly or whatever? Just maybe not terminate at all?
No, it was terminated. I think it must have just
dropped out.
Just dropped out of the connection. The connection was loose.
So. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and earthings, that's another rabbit hole, which we probably won't go down.
No, let's not go down
in
that
this
one.
But we can sort of highlight the importance of it though to make sure you get it right. And each situation might be different.
Well, that's the safety at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. Exactly right.
That's the potential to kill.
Yep, for sure. So just keep running those 4 mils at least.
Yep.
I won't go into when you don't run 4 mils. But yeah, look, generally speaking, no, you're talking a 6.6 kilowatt install. 4 mil should be all right.
Yep.
Generally. I'm not saying for every job, but 4 mil. Just make sure it's a minimum of 4 mil. Yeah, okay.
Once again, that's that gauntlet, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. So. Just run it.
Yep.
Just run it. It's only a small thing to get right. All right, cool. All right, well, let's move into some of the things that are happening in the industry at the moment. So I want to highlight, again, the Solar and Storage Conference. Solar and Storage Live Conference is in Brisbane next week. So we had Emma come in and talk about that. I'm heading up to talk in that. That's going to be a really great session. We had all the people in that session have a little discussion throughout the week. I'm really excited about that now. I wasn't sure how this was all going to go being a new conference when I first accepted to speak there. It's going to be a really, really good session. I think the way they're running it's going to be fun.
And you're gonna have some knowledge and experience in that, by the sounds too.
Yeah.
Our conversation earlier, which is it's going to be great.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be really good. Just the panel that are going to be up there. Really looking forward to it. So keep your eye out for that. And anyone listening in Brisbane, it'd be good to see you up there. The other thing I want to mention is I'm planning to head up to Glenn Morris's off-grid community tomorrow. Oh. Yeah, so he's got the 50-year celebration of his Muramura. Is that how you say it?
Been up there? Yeah.
No, I've never been.
15 minutes from my house.
It's not far from you, is it?
Yeah, no, it's great place. Awesome for education.
Yeah. Well, it's a Muramura community. Hopefully, Glenn, I'm getting this. Muramura, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that. Muramura community. So they've got an off-grid community and they're having a 50-year celebration. I think it's 50 years since the community started, or 50 years off-grid, is it?
It would be something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, it's a long, long time. So I'm really looking forward to heading up there and seeing the way they live, I'm really looking forward to Glenn's setup and seeing
it's awesome.
A lot of the stuff he's got up there.
And some of the homes that are built there now, taking into consideration mud brick and passive heat and so on. Yeah, it's really educational.
That's interesting for me. Like I'm building a house at the moment. I mean, it would probably past all that design stage, but I might get a few ideas maybe from that. So I'm really looking forward to that. Taking my kids up too. So yeah, Joe's coming out with me, and my 3 young boys are coming up. Of course, my youngest is going, oh, do they have footy up there? So all he wants to do is go up there.
Plenty of land up there to kick
the
the
footy. That's it. All he wants to do is go up there and kick the footy.
Plenty of wildlife. And everything.
Well, that's right. I think they're going to hopefully see a lot of that. And I think it's going to be a really good day. I think the weather's looking pretty good. I know it can get quite chilly up there.
It does get chilly up our way, yes.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I think it's worse up there, isn't it? I think it snows.
Oh, they're quite high up there.
Yeah. Have you had snow for a while? Got some snow at your place?
Mate. No. It's a bit low. I'm a bit too low.
Yeah, fair enough. No, that's all right.
Say good day to Jerry for me up there.
Jerry?
Yeah, from Soliquip.
Okay, yeah, I will. I definitely
will. Greenhouse effect, sorry.
Greenhouse effect.
Yep.
No worries. I definitely will. Well, I'm really looking forward to the day up there. So should be a lot of fun. All right. So we're getting towards the end of the show now. Do you have any closing remarks, Vaughan, or anything you wanted to share before we sort of close things up?
No, just thank you very much for the opportunity to come on here. I was very out of my comfort zone at the start, and I think, warmed up towards now. So I think it's great what Southwell Solar Inspections are doing. I think this really builds a bridge between inspectors / auditors with the community installing. And it helps build that relationship and show people that we're not all bad guys. Yeah, that's right. Well, that's. Thank you very much for saying those kind words. Like, that's sort of what I'm trying to do: build that bridge, share knowledge, and hopefully we all can get something out of it. Also, finding there's a lot of really good stories too. Even with the first 4 episodes, everyone's had a specific path they've been on, and it's quite unique. Some of the stories are quite unique, and that's been something out of doing these shows so far that was a little bit unexpected for me. There's a lot of experience and years in there, isn't it? With obviously Matt and Astrid and Christine and Emma and obviously us. Yeah, there's a lot of experience there. Yeah, there is. It is. Sometimes you sort of look back and it's amazing what we've all sort of done so far. Yeah, there's plenty more time to go as well. Like we've got. We're sort of only really, I suppose, halfway through. Gee, that sounds bad, doesn't it? Maybe a little bit more than half. I don't know when I'm going to retire. But yeah, we're in the middle years anyway. We're in the middle years, and they're probably our best years of our working life, and probably where we can offer the most. So that's where I want to make sure this show can help share my knowledge and my guests' knowledge. And I think everyone's got a really great story to tell. So. Yeah, if anyone is interested in coming on the show, feel free to reach out. You can, send me a message or jump onto our Facebook page, Solar Sidekicks. Reach out if you've got something you want to say. I'd be happy to have a chat, and it'd be a lot of fun as well. It's good having the guests come in, and I think everyone's enjoyed it a lot so far. Yeah, definitely. All right, well. Anyway, Vaughan, thanks very much for coming in. I really appreciate you making the journey. Thanks again to everyone at Radio Karam for everything that they've done. Just wanted to also mention what a lovely ceremony that they helped
broadcaster put together yesterday at the Karen Beauty Spot for Anzac Day. So it was really good to acknowledge all the return service people who fought for our country, and also the families who may have, been affected by war and those sort of things. And the community all got together and had a really nice ceremony, which was broadcast by Radio Karen, and they had a couple of the kids talking from the local primary school, and it was just a really nice community event. So thanks very much for Radio Karen for that and everything you're doing. That brings us to the end of the show. So, yeah, thanks again, Vaughan. I'll see some of you up in Brisbane. Looking to do a podcast up there as a little bit of a teaser. So looking forward to that. And I'm signing off now. So thanks very much. See you next week.